Great. So for the last 10 minutes. So the ill-gotten gain is not the problem. But what happens when a person cheats another individual? A person uses bad business practice and cheats. Not even going to talk about cheating on taxes. That's bad enough as it is. But in addition to that, cheating, and they make millions of dollars by cheating people, swindling, bad business practice, halachically, whatever it might be. And then they give $1 million to tzedakah. Now that money is blood money, in quotes. Unfortunately, sometimes it's not even in quotes. Blood money. That money is not the nechshav to tzedakah, but rather that money is considered, that action is an isur. It's not fair what that person did. There is the expression the Gemara uses, and I actually don't think he mentions it here. No, it's in the same Gemara in that same general area. It's called a mitzvah haba ba'avera. What happens in the famous classic example is the 3rd chapter of Masechet Sukkah that starts out with the words lulav hagazul. If a person steals a lulav, I come into your house and without your permission, I take your lulav and I take it and I make a bracha on it. My yotze the mitzvah. So he says over there, that's the quote he has here. But it means that it's not only not a bracha, but it's an avera, what I just did. You're not yotze the mitzvah. Derech Hagav, if you go into someone's sukkah without their permission, that you're allowed to do. That's not considered sukkah gzula, stolen, quote unquote, stolen sukkah is you're okay to use. It's actually come in handy for me, not in the last 40 years, but like when I was younger, I was traveling in Israel sometimes during Sukkot, and a couple of guys, and we wanted to eat. We came across somebody's sukkah in the backyard in some remote place, and there's no one on to ask to be able to sit down there. So we just went in to sit in it, which is perfectly fine. This is also an idea that people would like to have their items used for a mitzvah, but it doesn't extend to something that could be damaged, which is why a lulav and sometimes even tefillin is a possibility. To use it without someone's permission is a problem. In any case, all these things that we're talking about in this chapter we started, the whole thesis is that not only do we know we don't steal, we don't rob, but all these other things that come along with it that are we don't think about often enough. And all those, which is why he said, V'rubam begezel, the majority of people are somehow caught up in some form or other of theft, whether it's, again, from work, whether it's stealing time, stealing product. But there are other types of gezel that I want to mention also, that he will mention briefly. So let me do that first, and then we'll come back to it. Oh, he even mentions here about, I was wrong, he does mention lulav gazul. Take a look at the next few lines. It says, Nebuch, for this guy whose defender becomes his accuser, meaning that which could defend us, which is the mitzvot, now becomes the prosecutor, the one who's going to accuse us of doing something wrong. Like I just mentioned to you about a stolen lulav. The gezel zman gazel. He said, look, there's no difference between stealing a thing and stealing time. What does that mean, gezel zman? Gezel zman literally means, like I say, stealing time. I'll meet you at 3:00 tomorrow, and then we're going to go to the store. I'll meet you at 3:00. You pull up, and you're waiting for me. 5 minutes, 7 minutes, 8 minutes. I have stolen from you 7 or 8 minutes. That's gezel zman. Now, if you already say, which by the way is why you should never say, I'll see you at 3:00. It's I'll be there Bezrat Hashem, Yirtz Hashem, Inshallah at 3:00, because you're not, first of all, because if you say I'll be there at 3:00, that's a neder. So you have to be careful at that. So this is why you have to say Bezrat Hashem. But besides that, when you don't say that, you're also opening yourself up to gezel zman because you've made a commitment. I will not say that when doctors and dentists and others make you wait a while, that necessarily gezel zman, because it's some of those things are out of their control. Where it is gezel zman is when someone books two patients at the same time, that there's, or overlapping times, that there's absolutely no way that one can be done before the other. That is also a form of Gezel Zman to a degree. Again, I'm not being Motzi Shemer on any doctors or dentists, but it unfortunately happens. There's also the idea of what's called Gezel Shena. Gezel Shena is stealing someone's sleep, playing music too loudly, making noise at your place that bothers somebody else to the point they can't sleep, waking somebody up who's asleep that wants to stay asleep, but not because you're not waking them up because it's time to go to shul or time to get going for the day. You just wake up because you want to wake them up. That all those things are problematic. That also falls in the area of Hilchot Shechenim. There are actually in Shulchan Aruch and Choshen Mishpat, there's a section of Choshen Mishpat that deals with the halachot of neighbors. Right? How do you deal with the neighbor? It could be as simple as, quote, simple as my pipe is leaking into your property, or there's a pipe that seems to be between both our properties. Who's responsible for that? My windows are open and you're barbecuing and it stinks in my house. Okay, all those things are dealt with in the Shulchan Aruch, and many cases that go to court into Beit Din are based on Hilchot Shechenim. We are, thank God, blessed with wonderful neighbors in our building. We never have that issue, thank God. B'li Ayin Hara. But there are people who have consistent and significant problems with their neighbors. And some of that has to do with Gezel Shena, that it's too noisy in their apartment or too noisy in their house, and it's causing people to not be able to sleep properly. They can't fall asleep, but they fall asleep and they're woken up. That's another form of theft. Tov, let's stop here. Oh, let me finish the sentence. I didn't finish the sentence. It says, just like when you steal an object, that mitzvah turns from being your defender to being your accuser. So too, when you steal time to do a mitzvah, that mitzvah, which should have been your defender in the whole heavenly court, becomes your accuser and said, look at what you did. You stole from that person. Tov, we will continue Bezrat Hashem next week at 9:00 on Wednesday morning. We will start with a quote from Rav Aviner on this concept of Gezel Zman, and then we're going to move into the text after that. Have a wonderful day, everybody.